Hello and welcome. This is Recursive Thinking with another problem-solving video. In this video, I'll be solving the valid anagram problem. If you're solving this on LeetCode, you can find it on problem number 242. Before jumping into the problem, let's define what an anagram is. Basically, it's one word that can be rearranged to spell another word. There's a couple different ways you can solve this. The first is a quick and dirty way, but it requires you to sort both strings that you get. And after sorting is done, you can loop through both strings at the same time, checking both characters if they're the same. If they're not the same, then it's not an anagram. But this isn't an optimal solution. The sorting operations take time, which will reduce your efficiency. The way I like to solve this is to make use of a hash map. Iterate through the first string, keeping count of all the characters and the number of times they occur. After you do the first string, you can jump over to the second. With the second, using the same hash map, you're actually going to decrease each character count. And if you encounter a character that wasn't in the first string, then you could just return false. It's not an anagram. Now, once you're done checking all the characters of the second string, just check that hash map. Make sure it's empty. If it's not empty, then all the characters weren't accounted for from the first string, so just return false. Okay, jumping into the code. So we have our function called isAnagram. It takes in two parameters, 1 and 2. These are our two strings we're comparing to see if they're an anagram. So right off the bat, we want to start making sure we have valid input. So in this case, I'm just making sure that both 1 and 2 are defined. If neither of those are defined, then I return false. Now we can set up our hash map called character map. After this point, we can just start looping through our strings, starting with string 1. Just going to set up a for loop and pulling out the individual characters at the specified index. From here, we need to set up the counter within our hash map. If we haven't seen the current character yet, we need to set the value to 1. And if we've already seen the character, we just need to add 1 to our count. And that is it for the first string. Moving on to the second string, another for loop, pulling out the current character at index. So we have to do an additional check here. If we encounter a character in string 2 that we haven't seen in string 1, we just return false. And now we can do our decrementing instead of incrementing. The first case, if the current value is at 1 and we're trying to decrement that, which would mean the count would be 0, we can just delete the key from the hash map. It's no longer needed. Second case is we can decrement from whatever value it is. Now we're done with the second string. Now we just need to double check that the hash map is empty. If it's not empty, then just return false. And the last thing we have to do is just test our code, make sure it handles the invalid cases, empty string cases, and then it can check for an anagram. And that's it. Thank you for watching and have a good one.